It's always exciting to start from the beginning. It's a new limud, a new learning. Chumash Devorim from Torah Ohr. This pasuk is really from the pasuk that the mimer is based on. Is really from the F.R.E.E of this week, which talks about the vision of what's going to be like when Mashiach will come. But there's a verse there that says that Tzion, which means Yerushalayim, also implying to the Jewish people collectively are called Tzion, will be redeemed through justice, meaning it's deserved redemption, we earned it. The Shalveha and her captives, meaning not just the city of Yerushalayim, but the Jews that are there, and anyone that's associated with it that's in captivity in Galus, through tzedakah, through righteousness, meaning in this context that it's undeserved. Like when a poor person comes and you ask him, and he asks you for money, you give it to him. You don't owe him the money. He didn't earn it from you. You're giving it to him from the kindness of your heart. That is the idea of tzedakah. We, in a sense, are asking Hashem to redeem us with tzedakah. Whether we earn it, whether we deserve it, hopefully we do, but we're not asking it in that manner. Now, his central question of the mimer, which we already began, is what does it mean that these words that I'm telling you should be on your heart today? That every day you have to feel like Torah is new and fresh. We could feel that it's relevant, but how do you feel that it's new today? It's easy to say, well, you do the same thing again and again and again for a lifetime. Doesn't have the same freshness or excitement that you have when it's new. How are you supposed to keep it new? So to explain this, he said that the ultimate purpose of why the neshamas came down into this world, we have to understand the process and the reason why they came. Because malachim, who are very holy, they were created during 6 days of creation. It's machlekes if it's on Monday or Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it was, but they were part of creation. The Yidden, we come before creation. That's what it says, that Hashem discussed it, so to speak, with tzaddikim, neshamas of tzaddikim. Should I create a world? Obviously, Hashem doesn't need anyone's permission, but it's a terminology that's explained, a concept that Hashem discussed it. But our point is that we were here before, pre-world. Now, in levels of spirituality, what comes first is greater. So the neshama is much greater than the malachim. Now you take that neshama, you bring it down into this world, which the Alter Rebbe asks us many, many times, what's the point of bringing the neshama down? And he explains it always from different angles. But one of the things we say about the neshama is the reason why it came down is in order to have an elevation afterwards. There's some benefit by coming down here that as great as it is, it goes even greater as a result. To understand that, let's explore the very first tefillah that we say. We say Meida'ani, but really Elikai Neshama comes first. Now, Elikai Neshama is the tefillah that we say, the Neshama that you gave me is Tahirahi, it's pure. And in Kabbalah, it represents a level called Tehiru Ila'ah, the supernal purity or transparency. It's a very, very high, clean level.
That's so pure. Why do I always get indigestion?
It's because what goes into the soul.
Okay.
That's a bracha which comes in the context of Gemara before Asher Yatzar.
How does that make the other definition of praise? Tehillah meaning praise.
Tehillah with a lamed, very good. But this is Tehirah with a resh, like tahar. So the Gemara says over there, when a person wakes up in the morning, you say the kind of shamash nasata b'tahirahi. We say meida'ani, there's different reasons why we say that. But the point is that the kind of shama comes before brachas. Why? Because we're expressing this level of Hashem guarding the neshama, that it shouldn't leave the body. Now, as long as the neshama is within me, I could acknowledge and say, thank you, Hashem. It doesn't take much. Right? I recognize that my neshama comes from Hashem. The next level would be bracha. And this is the main part of the mimer. To bring Hashem down into an imminent way into our lives.
From Makif to Sefer.
Yes. From Sefer to Mamali. From Makif to Mamali.
See?
From Makif to Mamali. From Sefer to Mamali. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, to understand this, we need to understand a greater question. What does it mean that you acknowledge Hashem? Acknowledging Hashem I should really summarize the summary. But acknowledging Hashem is implying that initially I had some other ideas. But then I came around and I kind of agree. Fine, I accept. He brings the example in Gemara. You find Meidim Chachamim Rabbi Yechanan or Rabbi Huda, or Rabbi Huda's Meidim Chachamim, which means they had a machlekes, and then in certain cases, rare, but in certain cases, the opposing or one of the differing sides agreed, acknowledged, accepted. So initially I differed, and then I accepted it. Who are you differing with? Hashem? Like, now, Meidim Anachnu Lach. And before Meidim, you were like, kind of, I'm not sure if it's you, maybe it's me. What's going on? So he says a very interesting thing. There's two perspectives. There's top down and bottom up. The Milo Lamata, we are nothing, and Hashem is something. And the something, which means that Yesha Amiti, the true existence, created us, and we're nothing. We're not real. We're just created by Hashem. From our perspective, that's nothing. Because it's not, this is real, this is tangible. That's this like nothingness. So that's nothing creating something. We're something out of nothing. From our perspective, from Hashem's perspective, he's something and we're nothing. When we say I acknowledge Hashem on a deeper level, what it means, I'm acknowledging that really it's all nothing. Sorry, we're all nothing. And then the true Yesh is Yesh Amiti. So on a basic level, when you interact with your life, the world around you, this is real, and the Milo, there's this like spiritual nothingness. Not that it's not important or not valuable, but it's not tangible. And I'm something, or the world around me has to be contended with. Acknowledging Hashem means that's the only thing that exists, and everything else is nothing. So that's the Hidayah. It's not that I disagreed or differed, but I had a different perspective. I was looking from bottom up, and now it's from top bottom. How do you come to that level? How do you bring from transcendent to immanent, from Amud Eskasya to Amud Esgalia? How do you bring from Makif to Primi? How do you do that?
Wild guess. That's all. Crazy guess.
No, it's that you enjoy a goat cheese croissant.
You have one?
I might have one.
Because croissant will fit very well with the French connection.
French, yeah. I'm sorry. I only eat freedom food.
There you go. Now, the way that you do that is through the part of Shema where it says, if you, we still didn't answer how it's done, but if you could make that Hashem's Torah, his words, his things are today, they're relevant, they're new, they're fresh, that's going to cause you to have this perspective or realization or acknowledgement that in an internalized way, that this world is the nothingness and up there is the real deal. Okay, so that shift happens by seeing Hashem within you as real. So we have a two-stage process right now. We have acknowledgement, and then we want to internalize that acknowledgement. We want to make it real. Now, there's a problem. When I acknowledge something, I run the risk of remaining distant from it. I'm here, you're there. You know what? I agree with you. Right? I accept you, no problem. But I'm not with you. Right? You could acknowledge something. You could admit something. You're not connected with it. That's the nature of acknowledging. Right? I could, yes, sir. You know what? You want to be the mayor? I voted for someone else. That's no problem. You could be the mayor. Doesn't mean that I want to. It doesn't mean I like it. I accept for whatever reason. For many, many reasons, I have to accept it. That's the rule. That's the law. It's worth it for me, whatever it may be. But it doesn't mean that I connect to it and it's real. That would be the next stage. You have this unclarity or uncertainty. Then you have a haidah, they acknowledge Hashem. And then you have bracha. And bracha means to bring forth down into this world. How do you go from haidah, which is the kind of neshama, right? I acknowledge Hashem. I wake up in the morning, I acknowledge Hashem. It's all about you, right? To go from there to baruch, which you're internalizing and bringing it down. How do you go from one to the next? Just because? How do you do that? So he says, and this is where we're up to. We're actually one line further at the very end of place one. And with chila, 2, 4, 6, 9 lines to the bottom. With chila tzarach leis v'ahavta. In between the haidah stage, the acknowledgement stage, which has the problem of you could be distant from it, and very external, to the baruch, when you bring it and internalize it, there is a love in between. And the love in between really is what does it. When you reach Ava to Hashem, then the acknowledgement could be internalized and everything is fresh to you today. It's new. You started with brachas and everything else, which is acknowledgement. Then you came to Shema, which you had a lot of introductions to get to that feeling, but you came to Shema, which has V'ahavta, and you mean it. You actually love Hashem. Then you come to Baruch in the Shemana Esrei, which is full of the brachas, which is all about Baruch Atah, is bringing forth. So you're internalizing it, you're settling it in. Between the level of Haidah, which is acknowledging Hashem, to the level of Bracha, which is internalizing it in a very real way within yourself, you have to have this Ava in between. Now, it sounds like, no problem, push the button. It's not, obviously. We learn about it a lot in the next paragraph. How do you get to this Ava? Right? It's not a switch. It's effort. That's what davening is all about. But if you want to take your relationship with Hashem from a stage of Haida'ah, acknowledgement, to a stage of internalizing it, you have to have the Ava in between. Let's skip this parenthesis and go to
First one on the line. Sir.
What?
What's the first one on the line?
No, we're starting with base. Okay, next paragraph. Okay. Even if you didn't learn the first paragraph, this is fundamental on its own, the next paragraph. In order to come to a level of V'ahavta, which is the mitzvah, to love Hashem, how do you reach that? It's through Isbaininus. Now, truthfully, you could have stopped it after the word Isbaininus. You want to reach Ava to Hashem, you have to have Isbaininus. You have to meditate. You have to reflect. Okay, you have to take the time and concentrate and think about it in a deep way. Now, what are you thinking about? Shema Yisrael. It's very long, Rosh Hashanah. When a person contemplates on the concept of the oneness of Hashem, and there's two stages of that, which we're not getting into right now, but there's a Shema stage of that and a Baruch Shem stage of that. By truly reflecting, it's more than reflecting. Reflecting is like this, somewhat distant, but truly meditating on it is Bainanus. You could bring yourself to a physical love for Hashem. Pirush. What does this mean? Creation, we know, is yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. As it says, blessed is you, Hashem. Right? Baruch Shem that we say. Shebechinas malchusay, the level of malchus, ma'asherikra melech aleim, this that is called the melech over them. She'ene bechinas atzmius, it's not the essence of him, rather he is in a way of a kingdom. We'll explain. That's what sustains all the worlds, the higher worlds. Memshaltecha is the level lower than that, which is Melucha. Which he rules over there against their will. Okay, so basically it means like this. You have two levels of Malchus. You have Malchus, which is kingship. Then you have Memshaltecha, which is reign, like control. Okay? The idea of Malchus is a certain level where you're affecting the world in a way of royalty. Okay? But it's not a dictatorship. Then the higher worlds works in the way of Malchus. As it gets lower into this world, it's much more of a Memshaltecha, where there's a ruling over the people, whether they like it or not. And he says, this is why in Ashrei we say, because Malchus represents a relationship where the people want the king. They accept him as the king. So we're down here, he's up there, we want him. B'chol der v'der is memshaltecha. Not every generation, as a rule, wanted Hashem. Many of the people, unfortunately, were Rishayim, or wicked people. In those contexts, Hashem still runs it. But it's a way of memshaltecha, whether you like it or not. I'm ruling this. So Malchus has two parts to it. It has an internal part of it, like everything else, which is royalty. And then it has an external part, which is more of a ruling. Okay? So the Baruch Shem Mechused Elavad has that element to it. The Malchus level and the Memshala level. Sheyesh data, Shayir Rishayim, Kamei Mabul. You have generations, they were Rishayim, like the generation of the flood. Shalei Kiblu El Malchus Eiberatzin. They didn't accept the yoke of Malchus desirably. The Afal became the Rishon Chayis Rav. Nonetheless, they got a lot of Chayis, a lot of life from Hashem. V'hinei Kol Ha'ilamos, all of the worlds, El Yoinim is Gan Eden Tachtoin, all the higher worlds. The lower Gan Eden, Shutainak Niflam Elam Haza, which is a tremendous, greater pleasure of this world. There's an interesting Gemara which says it's better for a person to be judged, which will have consequences, and then probably may have to go through purgatory, but then it'll come to Gan Eden. Gan Eden is so amazing that it's worth the necessary stages, because Gehenna is a temporary process to get there. Friedrich Rabbi says that most neshamas are not in Gehenna more than a few months. Kaddish, the maximum they could be there is up to a year. I don't mean like terrible Russia, but in general, most they could be is up to a year. Kaddish, when someone says it as an oval, they only say 11 months because it's disrespectful to imply that the person they're saying Kaddish for needs a full 12 months. Now they have no way of knowing, so they say a little less, right? Even Svardim, they say longer, they stop and they start again. There's a little break in between, but normally just a few months. And he's saying if that, and don't get any ideas. It's still not. But the point is that Chazal say it's better for the person to go through the judging process and everything that comes with it, because afterwards they go to Gan Eden, which is amazing. So Gan Eden Tachton, which is Tainug Niflam Elam Haza, Gan Eden Elyon and Gan Eden Elyon, and there's other elevations infinitely. There's many, many levels. Malchus, as we described, has an internal and external. It's the bottom level. It's a very filtered down level of godly energy. And all of these high worlds, it all comes from there. Give me 1 second.
There was a lawsuit that in Shemaim, all the flames, all the toxins from Gehenna were coming up, and the Malachim were upset. So they filed a lawsuit. Who won the lawsuit? Gehenna, because all the lawyers are there.
That is.
Is this sort of like the similar thing with like neshama comes to this world, that even though it's a painful process, it goes back to a higher level? Like neshama was created before the world. And
yes, but we don't describe it as a punishment or as a suffering. It doesn't want to come down, but it's not like a Gehenna where it's literally like. That's why Bria is called Yesh Mi'ayin. Why is creation called something from nothing? Because creation because the existence of creations is from a level which that level is like ayin ve'efes. Why do you call yesh mi'ayin? It's not mi'ayin. It's from Hashem. The level of godliness that's used goes through Malchus, and if you compare that to the real deal, to the essence of Hashem, this is like nothing compared to that. So another explanation of nothingness is within the process of godliness. It's the bottom level, Malchus. And that is the level of the midah of Hashem's Malchus. Also, this doesn't go into their internalizations. Even the level of Malchus, which even the external level of Malchus, doesn't get internalized in the Nevrayim. It's almost like projected. There's a certain spiritual level which comes forth. What are we getting at? We're trying to explain that when a person reflects on the relationship that we have with Hashem. That Hashem, everything that we're excited about in this world was created by Hashem, but by a minuscule amount, so to speak, of Malchus, where it goes down through a whole chain that we're referring to it as ayin, meaning Hashem is way greater than all that. When you realize that someone is amazing beyond, you develop a feeling for this person. Okay, it could be an awe, but if you flip it and you realize how good and kind Eibishter is to us, that develops an ava. Now, there are certain avas that you have that they're a love that you can feel, touch, and taste. It's very imminent to you. And there's other avas, like spiritual avas, that take effort to develop, to think about, to reflect on it, and so on. All this is according to the rule, the order of the flow, the chain. There's a top, there's a bottom, there's internal, there's external. We're getting the ayin of the Malchus level. But in this physical world that we exist, through tshuva and good deeds, if you measure regularly, there's a process. We're in this world, which is a result of the post-Malchus level, so to speak. So very little godliness. You don't have the essence at all. But that's according to the normal chain. But through tshuva and ma'asim tovim, you could reach literally the revelation, you could bring forth literally the revelation of Atzmos, the essence of Hashem, mamish. Which means that a person could think that through, in other words, could reflect on the concept that the whole world was created by Hashem. But it's a level of ayin to yesh, right? It's yesh may ayin. And that ayin means, in this explanation, that it's really the external part of Malchus which is doing this, compared to the essences. But we have the opportunity to sit down and learn a piece of Torah or do a mitzvah which connects us, not just connects us, it brings forth a revelation of Atzmos in Sefer Mamish into this world. Now, that helps us understand what it means. How do you make it hayom? It isn't today. It's not today. It was given 2,000 plus years ago. It's relevant. It's applicable, but I don't feel that it's fresh and new. But if I could reflect on the concept through this whole process, that normally the relationship and the godliness that we have in this world is a very concealed level, creation, but it's very concealed, and even the concealed level is from ayin, because it went down through all the spheres multiple times. But through Torah mitzvahs, Devorim ha'ela, which is what these things are, it's Torah mitzvahs, I could bring that Gilav Atzmos. That realization makes it, now it's new. I feel it. It's like, I'm accomplishing something real, essence of Hashem right now.
It's not concealed anymore?
Okay, it's fair. Like, we don't see it, right? But he says it's a Gilav. It is a revelation of the essence of Hashem.
I do feel it, man.
In a revealed way.
Inside.
Okay. Another thing you should contemplate on. In Elam Haba, in the world to come, you can't go up levels unless there's Kafa Kela and Gehenim. I'll explain. There's a process. You don't just jump into Gan Eden. Okay? There's a Kafa Kela, which is a process of a slinging, where, in short, the neshama is taken from one extreme to the other extreme. It's shown the image of this world, and it has a desire for it, but it doesn't want it because it's the neshama and it appreciates spirituality. But after being exposed to it a little bit, you kind of want it. Then you pull the neshama to the spiritual side, and now it's hard because it wants to be in the physical, but now it gets developed into that. It wants that, pulling back. The extremity back and forth is a painful process. Then it goes through Gehenim, and then it gets to Gan Tachten. Then there's a river that it has to go through, which makes it forget all the visions of this world. It doesn't mean that it can't connect to this world or daven for this world. It just means that the experience of this world is deleted, which is the appreciation for it. It's a cleansing process. In order to get to the next level, in Elam Haba, it has to go through one level, another level, and these stages,
I heard two different statements. Did the two angels beat the neshama so that it remembers its name or it forgets its name? I forgets the two angels in the fire mikvah.
There you go. It depends on the context.
Oh, yeah, wait, so that's the swing. That could be the swing.
I don't know about angels hitting in a neshama. The process that neshama goes through is not fun in order to get to the next level.
I think it's Zohar.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that
No, I think that smack you around until you. I think that's what you're talking about.
the solution is to stay here as long as we can.
I'm saying
As we'll soon see why. Huh?
this is the worst itinerary ever.
Okay, but his point is really on the point here. His point is that in Elam Haba, if you want to get from level to level, which those levels are not the essence, it's getting a tachtin to get in the alien, and within that there's myriads of sub levels, right? It's an infinite amount. To get there, you got to go through tremendous stages, even just to get from the lower Gan Eden to higher Gan Eden, right? Based on the order, the proper rules, because it's the level of Male. That's all in Elam Haba, which is Memale. But if you're in this world, you could transform from one extreme to the other extreme. Miyad kirega. In a second, you could change. You don't need kafakela to reach the highest of levels. You do mitzvah, learn Torah. There's obviously levels in that, but you could do mitzvah, learn Torah, and get to the essence itself. Right? So, Gan Eden is not all that great. It's a high spiritual delight and everything, but compare that to the opportunity of a mitzvah in this world, you get the essence without kafakela and Gehenim and all these other things. And so, Ad sheledina havakadesh is the isha nashu tzadik gomer mikudeshes. Therefore, the halacha is if somebody says, brief introduction, someone marries a woman and he makes a condition that he's marrying her, and she accepts it, whatever, on the condition that he is rich. Okay, and they find out that he's not rich. It's not a marriage. The condition wasn't met retroactively. She doesn't need a divorce. Just go your merry way, or not married, whatever. But it's not a marriage because the condition wasn't met. And the same thing is if he says he was strong. If he says my name is John and his name is Doe, whatever it is. Now, what happens if he says I'm a tzaddik gomer, a complete tzaddik? She's like, I always wanted to marry a tzaddik, and she accepts. And then after the chuppah, she finds out the guy is a terrible person.
He can do tshuva.
Yeah, he could have done tshuva the second before he got married, in a moment, just by thought, and not just by thought, but it changed his status to a tzaddik gomer potentially. He says here, Mekudeshes, she's Mekudesh. In halacha, in Rambam, it says that there's a suffix. We don't know if he did or he didn't, and therefore he should give a divorce because she wants to leave.
He didn't fall when he married her.
What?
He decided going before he married her.
Fine, but the point is that a person could change his status and has halachic ramifications in extreme. It's about an ish. This is not like small stuff. She's now a married woman, despite his condition, quote, not being met, because it's possible that it was met. It could be that in his mind, he didn't do anything, but in his mind, he resolved. Imagine, he's going to the chuppah and he said, that's it. I'm turning a new page. I am doing shuvah. All my past things, terrible, wicked behavior that she found out about right after the chuppah, is not me anymore. I'm a new person. And you became a tzaddik gomer. In Gan Eden, you can't do that. You can cleanse the neshama and give it somewhat of an experience, right? Whatever, through a whole process of kafakela, whatever it is, and you can have some enjoyment. It's not going to be the essence of Hashem. In this world, in a second, you could get it if you're real. Why? Afilu Rasha Gomer, even if he's a complete Rasha, Shema Hirher Tshuva Chulu. The one says maybe he had a thought of tshuva, sincere thought of tshuva. Okay, so despite the halacha that tshuva has many, several processes, several steps to it. Right? You have to regret, you have to do vidui, you have to resolve for the future. There's different things that have to happen, but at the same time, that's for kapara reasons. That's for complete tshuva, whatever it may be. But you could change your status from a Rasha Gomor, which is a very harsh term, complete Rasha, to a tzaddik gomer in a moment. literally in a moment. That's the power of the neshama in this world. In that world, it can't do it. It's just not available. The reason why it works here is because in this world you have a shine of the level of Seiv Kol, meaning you have the level of godliness the way it is in the essence of Hashem. And therefore it's only in a way of transcendence. But you have a shine of that. The shine of that has the power to help you reach those heights. In this world you have it, in those worlds you don't.
But if you have the shine, those souls should have it though now.
In that state, it doesn't exist. In other words, why did Hashem come down to this world? In this world, the way Hashem designed it, you have, because it's the lowest place and whatever else, you have the ability to reveal the essence of Hashem. In that world, you don't. See, we look at it and say, oh, it's Gan Eden, it's high spiritual. It is. But it's a world which was created. Creation has, by definition, it's a demotion. Right? It's not the essence. It went through spheres, and now we're created Gan Eden, whatever, angels. It's all creations. Spiritual, but it's creations. Therefore, therefore, Chazal said, etc., that it's better to do 1 hour, which means 1 moment, any amount of time, of Shuvah Ma'aseh Tevim in this world is better than all of the Gan Eden Atachting and all, and it's all, right? Why? Because a mitzvah in this world, you put on film 1 more time, is tremendously more effective because you can get essence of Hashem. That's what it means from a great abundance. It's greater than the world to come, which the world to come is sometimes called as kol. Okay. Therefore, it's going to be, or this is how a person will reach Teva Hafta, b'chol nafshecha, with your whole soul, b'mesiras nefesh, giving up your soul. Not just my body. In other words, it's inconvenient, and I don't want to, and it's hard, I'm going to do it anyways. A bodily devotion to Hashem. Rather, it could be even Mesiras Nefesh. And the ultimate purpose is you want to bring forth Ein Sof down here. That is through Torah mitzvahs. Okay, how do you do that? The ultimate purpose of creation, and why the neshama came down here, is to bring the essence of Hashem into this world. The way that you do that is through Torah mitzvahs. And this is what the pasuk says. Therefore, the pasuk says, these things I'm telling you. What's the I'm telling you? Could have said that Hashem is telling you, like it says very often. What's anechi mitzavcha? We say it in Shema. It's anechi misha anechi. I who is I, which means the essence. Atzmusa yizbarich, the essence of Hashem. Mitzavcha, I'm telling you. Now, mitzavcha also means attachment, bond. So the essence is connecting with you. So what's Shema? These words, which is Torah mitzvahs, I'm telling you, it should be hayom. It should be today, fresh, real, relevant to us. Right? B'chol nafshecha, well, it comes first. But b'chol nafshecha means with your whole soul, because you have a real mesiras nefesh to Hashem in a way that your nefesh is being bound to Hashem. How is that happening? Through a neichi, because it's the essence of Hashem. Mitzavcha is connecting you. Right? Command means a connection. And not just from the name of Hashem, which is the glory of Hashem, but it's the name. It's Malchus. It's a lower level. And today means today, but not tomorrow in Elam Haba. Tomorrow means in the distant future. It's today you could actually accomplish it, because tomorrow, meaning in the future, in Elam Haba, you don't have that opportunity. You're not in this world. You can't. You could do. They have spiritual delights, but it's not going to be the essence levels. It's only to get the reward. Okay. When a person contemplates on this every day, then it's going to be in his eyes literally like new, because you're reflecting on it and saying, today I have the opportunity through the mitzvahs and Torah and serving Hashem To reach, reach means that you're here and you're going there. He said before, to be mamshech giluy atzmos, to bring forth the revelation of others into this world. So mitzvah is not this burden, but it's worth it because after 120 years, there's some kind of good food in Gan Eden. Rather, it's the other way around. We have the opportunity in this world to do a mitzvah because here is where it's at. You could connect to Hashem on the deepest of levels of revelation of Asmos, which is the greatest thing. Malachim can't do that. Neshamas can't do that once they're out of this world. So it's not, I don't want to, but I want to go to Gehenna, I want to Gan Eden, so I'm going to do this. It's not a relationship. It's something which only a Yid could do, only in this world, and that's why I have to see it as fresh as new. Let's stop here for Shachris.
Don't come back tomorrow. I said, don't come back tomorrow.
True.